Did you end up leaving with Phoebe?
No.
Why not?
She changed her mind and wanted to stay with her daddy. So, you know, I never kept her away from him or anything. And then we decided that he would get up and take her to school and then go to work at the island crew. And I would pick her up after I got off work. And I was going to come home and cook a good dinner. So there would be dinner when John came home.
Was there, why did that plan end up not happening? Why did Phoebe not go with you?
She wanted to stay with her daddy.
Okay. Did John put up any objection or?
No.
Okay. Did you talk to John again after you left the house?
10:30 that night, he called and wanted to come over and stay, he and Phoebe. And I told him since it was so late and it was very, very cold and windy and everything, not to bring her back out of the house.
May I have a moment, Tricia?
Yes.
Showing you what's been pre-marked. I'm showing you what's been pre-marked for identification as Defense Exhibit 10. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes, it's my son and Phoebe.
And when was that photo taken?
In 2013.
The summer 2013?
Yes.
Does it fairly and accurately depict how John and Phoebe looked at that time?
Yes.
Judge, at this time I'd ask to introduce what's been pre-marked for identification into evidence as Defense 10.
Received, overstated, Judge.
May I publish?
Yes.
In summer of 2013, was John still taking his medication at that time?
I believe so.
I have nothing for you.
Deputy Jocelyn? Why don't you wait until the photographer leaves?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You may proceed. Pardon me?
Can we be recognized? We'd like to object.
There, he's taking he's pointing his camera.
Judge, should we
Hold
want the
on.
jury?
No, he's pointing his camera toward the jury. He's trying to photograph a piece of evidence in a juror's hand. You have a videographer in here. You have a camera.
We would like to object. As a-
Understood. I hear you. You have a camera in the courtroom. Go ahead.
Around Thanksgiving 2014, the defendant began to think that Michelle was going to take Phoebe away, right?
Yes.
And he didn't want Michelle to have Phoebe.
No.
And he didn't like Michelle's new boyfriend, guy kisser, correct?
Correct.
And then he was upset at Christmas when Phoebe got a bunch of presents, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Because he felt he had never gotten those presents when he was a kid.
I'm not. He got presents when he was a kid.
But he was upset that she was getting more presents than he got. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And he would use Phoebe to get things, places to live, money, friends, that kind of thing,
Objection
right?
improper.
No.
Hold on.
May we approve?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like what?
He's acted like he was my mother, and he said that he was my mother, and that she wasn't the one that molested me, that my dad and my grandfather did. And I was supposed to be lying about it, and I'm like, what are you doing? I said, you're not my mom. And then that's the night that he took Phoebe.
And he told you he was going to fuck up your
Well, he
life.
told me he was going to fuck my whole life up.
And about the Chinese drywall, you would actually taste some of the food, right? Some of the canned food?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't any good, was it?
That some of the food wasn't right.
Right. Even though the can said that the expiration date was okay.
Yes.
So 2 or 3 days before the murder, he says he's going to fuck up your whole life.
Yes.
And he had also said that, quote, you're a piece of shit and he's tired of Phoebe being bounced around like a hot potato.
Yes.
And you were giving him money for the lawyer?
I gave him some, yes.
And you took care of Phoebe?
Yes.
And you were watching Phoebe prior to this murder within the past couple months?
6 months. 6 months.
6 months, okay. And he would stay there on and off as well, right?
Only through the Christmas holidays.
Now, these bizarre things he was telling you that he was your mother and the molesting, he had a habit of doing that, right?
Sometimes.
He would say these bizarre off-the-wall things to mess with people, right?
With me, yes.
And he'd been doing it since he was a teenager, right?
Yes.
Did it all the way up to the time of the murder.
Yes.
So saying off-the-wall bizarre things and mean things was not unusual for him.
No.
And when he thought he was going to fuck up your life, you thought he was talking about Phoebe, right?
At that time, I wasn't sure if he was gonna try to mess up my probation and put drugs in my coffee, or if he was talking about Phoebe at that time. Because I never really thought that he would ever do anything to hurt his daughter, because he loved his daughter.
But he didn't want Michelle to get her, did he?
No,
Didn't want Guy Kisser to get her, did he?
no,
And told you he was going to fuck up your life, didn't he?
yes.
And a few days later, he murders her, right?
Yes.
Nothing else, Judge.
Redirect.
You need a minute, Ms. Johnchuk?
Okay,
Are you sure?
yes.
Okay. Let's talk about that Sunday night. So that's the December 4th going into the 5th?
Yes.
Okay, and you said Sunday night.
Well, it was, by the time that he woke us up, it was already the 5th. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. So it was a
And-
Monday morning.
Okay. Who all was at your house that night?
Me and Phoebe, John, and my cousin Brianna.
How old was Brianna?
At that time, she was 14.
3 in the morning. Was everybody asleep, or were you asleep?
We were all asleep. Yeah. Well, me and Phoebe were asleep, and I think Brianna might have been asleep.
Were you waking up out of your sleep to John yelling at you?
Yes.
Did it make any sense?
No.
And he said something that Phoebe doesn't need to be knocked around like a hot potato?
Pushed around like a hot potato, yes.
Had anybody been pushing Phoebe around?
Well, until she started staying with me, he was bouncing her around like a hot potato.
And you're saying that Phoebe was staying with you for 6 months straight.
Right.
John said that, well, did he leave with Phoebe and Brianna?
Yes.
Did he say that he was going back to his daddy and Mickey's?
Yes.
Did it make any sense why he just started yelling and arguing with you in the middle of the night?
No, it didn't.
And when you say he was talking like your mother, what do you mean by that?
He was acting like he was my mother, saying that, you know, that I'm not the one that molested you when you were little, that your dad and your granddaddy did that to you. And I'm like, John, what are you talking about? You're crazy. And
Did he seem different when he
yes,
was saying that?
his eyes were, I can't describe it. It was like scary.
Was this something that you guys had been talking about anytime recently? Any issues with your mom?
No.
When was the last, at this point your mother had passed away, is that right?
Correct.
Some time ago?
Yes.
Had you guys talked about any issues between you and your mom in some time?
No.
The things when you said he was talking to you like he was your mom, like he was talking in that tense or in that person?
Like in that tense.
Okay. So, when you challenged him on it and said, you know, what are you talking about? Did that help anything, or he just kept acting off?
He kept acting off.
And then prior to leaving is when he says, I'm going to do something to fuck your whole life up?
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Did you call the police when they left?
No.
Did you have any concern for Phoebe or Brianna's well-being?
When he said he was going back to his daddy and Mickey's house, I thought everything would be okay.
And was everything okay Monday morning?
I didn't talk to him until Wednesday.
Phoebe was okay though, and Brianna was okay?
Yeah.
And certainly you're not suggesting that at the time.
Objection, leading judge.
Sustained.
Are you suggesting that you thought he was going to do something to Phoebe when he said that?
No, I didn't think he would do anything to Phoebe.
That's not how you took it at all, is it?
No.
You actually thought it was related to your probation, is that right?
Yes.
And explain that.
Well, Michelle Kerr and Noemi, I don't know her last name, they had conspired one time to put some stuff in my drink to cause me to fail my drug test. And at the time, I thought that he was talking about doing something like that to mess up my probation or something.
And would I be correct in, or did you ever tell Detective Miller about any of these statements? When the police came and talked to you after everything happened, you didn't tell them about this fight that night, right?
No, I can't remember.
Okay.
I was so upset when I found out about Phoebe, I really can't remember.
Okay. Are you saying that'd be a better question for Detective Miller?
Judge,
What?
objection, speculation, leading.
Sustained.
Would it refresh your recollection to review his transcript, his deposition transcript?
Objection, judge, improper.
She says she didn't reverse it. deposition where discussing the conversations you guys had?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Page 21. Actually, let me make sure it's on. Starting on page 28. Just don't read anything out loud. Just read it to yourself, and then I'm going to ask you another question. Starting on page right there, and then going down to 2.
Starting.
Does that help you remember whether you told Detective Miller?
Yes, I didn't tell him.
It might have gotten lost. Did you tell him that John had made that statement, I'm going to mess your life up, or ever?
No.
Okay. Nothing further.
Mr. Ellis?
When you spoke to Detective Miller, this is right after the murder,
Uh-huh.
you were very upset, right?
I was very
You
upset.
didn't give him a whole lot of details about anything, right?
I couldn't at the time. My head wasn't. All it was, so Phoebe was gone.
But you said this in your deposition when your deposition was taken, right?
Yes.
Phoebe was the light of your life?
Yes.
You were trying to get your life together and your act together
Relevance.
to help her,
Overruled.
right?
Right.
So the best way to attack you was be through Phoebe, right?
Yes.
That's a good position.
Anything further?
Ms. Jonchuk, you had said something about John saying weird things all the time or something like that.
Yes.
Had John ever talked to you like he was your mother before?
No.
Just I'm gonna check this
Nothing
outside of code review.
Good, any further? Are you finished, Ms.
Ye-
Mason?
Yes, ma'am.
Can Ms. Jonchuk be excused, or should she remain on standby?
Stand by.
That's fine.
Standby, is that what you said?
Yes, please.
Does the juror have a question?
I do.
Okay, take your time. Okay, you can ask as many as you like. of the questions that I can ask the witness, okay? Number 2 is not going to be asked, and please don't ever discuss that with another juror, okay? You'll get instructions at the end. Number 1 on the first set, has John ever drugged you in the past? I can ask that. So that will be a question to you, Ms. Jonchuk. Has John ever drugged you in the past?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And then, who wrote the second? Who wrote, how did she know that John was taking his meds in 2013? Okay, thank you, just because I have to write down who it is. So you can answer that. How did you know that John was taking his meds in 2013?
Well, he was acting normal. That's the best of my ability of knowing.
Okay, thank you. And then, Mr. Broom, your question was, can you repeat the date of the pool photo, right? Yes, thank you, sir. Could you tell us again the date of the photo that Ms. Manuel showed you of John in the pool?
It was July of 13.
Okay.
July 4th.
Okay.
13.
Anybody else have any more? Yep, some more questions? Take your time. Morning break. So give everybody 25 minutes so the staff gets a break too. So that looks like 10:45, okay? Don't talk about the case, leave the pads on the chairs. Thank you.
Well, happy for you.
wants,
I
do you
thought you
want?
were gonna ask her the question.
Oh, you're right. Basically right, but I'm gonna ask you the question, okay?
Okay.
When wild statements were made in the past, did they ever lead to violence?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell me about that? Well, do you want me to inquire further or not? Her answer was yes.
We would probably follow up with that, just so we
Okay.
can get that out
Could
now.
you tell us about that, when, what you remember, please?
John beat me up one time, or a couple times.
When?
See, one time was in 2012, and the other time I think was either the end of 2013 or the beginning of 2014. I can't remember the exact date.
End of 2013, and when did you say?
Maybe the beginning of 2014. No, I said 12, and then either the end of 13 or beginning of 14. I can't remember for sure.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
The statement that he had made that night on cross, Mr. Ellis characterized that as bizarre. Is that correct?
Right.
When you and John previously had fights, were those angry yelling fights?
Yes.
Was he ever saying bizarre, off the wall things during those fights?
No.
So, had he ever said any bizarre things to you any other times?
No.
Not mean or threatening, but bizarre.
Jeff,
Oh,
that's outside the
yes.
scope of the juror's question.
Yes.
Well, the whole
And I would argue it's not relevant if
well,
it's
the
not.
follow-up to the question, that's true. Let's try to make it as short as possible.
You said, I'm sorry, you said yes, there were other
Yes.
times? Okay. And when he said bizarre things, did violence occur after he said was angry and argumentative, or after he was bizarre? Does that make sense?
It didn't always, the anger, I mean, the violence didn't always occur after he was bizarre.
Okay,
If that's
the two-
what you were asking.
The two, oh, okay. Okay. So the times that you mentioned there was violence, you're saying there were not bizarre statements before that?
No.
Okay, just,
Not all the time, no.
you mentioned there were two, you gave the judge 2 times about 2012.
Right.
Okay. Those times, were there bizarre statements said before, or argumentative, you guys fighting statements?
Well, one time he had just asked me not to come to the house with Phoebe, and I did. So, and then the second time that it happened is because Noemi and Michelle were supposed to be messing around with other men at the bar, and he came home and he busted the TV and he tried to take mine, and I wasn't gonna let him take my TV, so he pushed me down the stairs. So I guess, I don't know if that meant bizarre or if
Okay.
that's what you wanted to know.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Any questions, Mr. Ellis?
About that issue.
JONCHUCK, would you mind standing, stepping out and going to the vestibule for us, okay?
Okay.
And we'll be right back with you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, well, the defense obviously doesn't want it in. The standard is really, can it come in pursuant to the rules of evidence? So talk to me.
Judge, the court's already ruled on this. The court granted a motion in limine keeping out prior bad acts. A question from the juror should not open that door. We should not let in irrelevant information. They're prior bad acts, 2 specific acts of violence. There's no indication that they're tied to this case. They're completely irrelevant. We're talking about between 2 and 3 years, and a year before this, the 2 different instances, they were not similar situations. The question was, had he said any bizarre things to you? That does not open the door then for any time that they've had an argument, even if the juror inquires. That certainly did not open the door from any of the testimony on the stand, so the court should say we cannot answer that question. It's not relevant.
Did you want to be heard or not?
Well, Judge, just as far as Ms. Manuel arguing the court's already ruled prior bad acts don't come in, that was not the court's ruling. The court's ruling was when they open the door to mental health, all kinds of things come in, specifically mental health related, including violence and aggression. So that's not the way I understood the court's ruling. I think it comes in.
Are any of the experts going to testify about that?
No.
It's the first time anybody knew about it?
Oh, no, we knew about it, but our experts aren't going to testify about it because we don't believe it's relevant.
Are yours, or you don't know?
Well, specifically, I think that they are. I think that violence and aggression goes hand in hand with the psychopathy checklist and PCLR.
Well, the reality is it's probably equally consistent with both. I mean, it's been clear from the testimonies so far that if Mr. JONCHUCK is suffering from the rather severe mental illness he's been diagnosed with, he certainly could be violent. I mean, people have testified about their fear of him at the state hospital. Ms. Torres said she was afraid of him physically, but so it can be argued either way. It can be argued off the psychopathy list, or it can be argued that it's just a symptom of his severe mental illness. Agree?
Yes.
It can be argued either way.
The prejudicial effect far, far outweighs any minimally probative value. It is prior bad acts, specific acts of violence. There is nothing by filing a notice of insanity saying on one specific date and moment in time he met the criteria for insanity does not then open the door to specific prior bad acts. That prejudicial effect far, far outweighs any probative value.
Judge, I was just on court. His whole life comes into play here.
Hold on, let me finish. No, go ahead.
His whole life comes into play here, Your Honor. I mean, we're not just talking about one specific moment on the bridge. These doctors are looking at his entire life. They're going back to his childhood. Dr. Mackless is going to be talking about his entire life back to 5 years old and mental illness and issues, and it's all relevant, Your Honor, and it's all coming in through the experts.
I mean, Mr. Ellis wanted me to limit it basically to the past and one moment in time, and I said, I'm not doing that. You know, the juror's going to hear everything that's relevant to the issue.
And Judge, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The court has indicated it can be argued either way, which we would completely agree with, which means then that the probative value is very slight. The prejudicial value is obviously very high. There are prior acts of violence that aren't even related to his mental state. There's not even any relevancy to say he made these bizarre statements to me and then this occurred.
Well, she didn't know. She said she wasn't sure. She didn't know.
No, I think she said that she originally said that they weren't bizarre statements like, I'm your mother, that they were arguing kind of statements. And then she went into details about them, and it was one, Michelle Kerr and somebody had come home from a club, and the other one, he brought Phoebe over. Not that he had said anything bizarre or unusual ahead of time.
Well, it can be argued either way, that it's consistent with his mental illness, or that it's something else. So just because it can be argued either way doesn't mean it's not probative. And because the experts can do what they will with it, and you all can do what you will with it, and that might change its level of relevance. I think it's relevant. I think it's admissible, and I'm going to ask her. Let's bring her back in, please.
And Judge, one further thing,
Yes.
certainly if the state believed it was relevant, I think they would have asked her on cross. I think this is a prior bad act that is...
Doesn't matter. The question is we're supposed to try to answer the questions if the evidence is admissible, and I'm ruling that it is, so I'm going to answer.
Judge, can I bring up one other thing?
Yes.
I assume as soon as we're done with her, they're going to call Dr. Mackless, so they provided me with the PowerPoint. We could address it now. I think Mr. Williams wanted to address it before they call him because it's part of his PowerPoint for his testimony. He puts in his PowerPoint that he is looking at the defendant's advisory hearing, and the bullet points state, John expresses he does not want an attorney, wants to leave things in the hands of God. After Judge promotes the idea of an attorney, John initially agrees, but only if the attorney is pure good and not evil. John then reverts to not wanting an attorney and expressing that he wants the matter left in the hands of God. The judge appoints a doctor. I have issues with that. They had a specific motion in limine to keep out the fact that he asked for an attorney when he was at the Manatee County Sheriff's Office. In that video that was played to the jury, he asked for an attorney twice. And when he asked for an attorney both times, it was very clear that he wanted an attorney. He wasn't asking God to be his lawyer or anything like that. He said, I want a lawyer. And so now for them to talk about a separate incident where he's discussing with the judge that he doesn't want an attorney, I think opens the door to the fact that previously he did want an attorney.
Okay, that's something you can... Well, we already heard he wanted an attorney when the crazy statement came in from the Manatee County Sheriff's Office.
No,
we
redacted that.
We redacted that out.
Because of their motion in limine, so the jury's not
I
heard that.
thought it was in my transcript.
No, we
Just
redacted
the
that.
recitation of the rights.
Just Miranda.
Ooh, I thought I read it. Okay.
No, we redacted
No,
that.
it was redacted out on their request on 2 separate occasions. So now they want to, you can't say that he knew what he wanted an attorney, but later on he said something about an attorney that prevented us from having it in the first place, which we could have had.
Response? Let's meet somebody.
Judge, yeah, I guess it's twofold. First, I'm not sure if the state is objecting to the entry of the advisory hearing. If they are, I would like to address that first.
Well, they are because of what was said. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So then the objection is not that the advisory hearing itself is not admissible. I mean, am I beyond that argument?
Well, they don't like what's in it. They don't think it's admissible.
I agree that there's parts of it they don't want in. I'm just trying to see, in other words, it's the advisory hearing is an official court record, so therefore it doesn't need authentication.
Right, right.
My objection is to the contents.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so he goes to Manatee County and he asks for an attorney, or he says, I don't want a lawyer.
He
What
says
did I not hear?
he wants an attorney. He asked for an attorney twice, but once with Detective Huff, and then in the second video with Detective Miller after he's read his rights.
And then they continue to question him.
When he asked for the attorney with Detective Huff, Huff says something to the effect that, this is not what we're doing now, we're waiting for the detectives to arrive. That's basically the gist of it. With Detective Miller, once he asks for an attorney, the interview ends. It's over, and he leaves. And right now, the jury's probably wondering, why is the defendant and talking to the detective, and the detective is listening to him, and he's talking to the detective, and then also the detective just leaves? I mean, looked strange, and we were forced to do that because that doesn't, it's not something we can use, and the case law is very clear on that. So we were, you know, had to take the hit on that, but we had no choice, and now they want
Okay,
to
so
get that
what would be
into
the relevance? What problem do you have with them introducing it to show that he's crazy? Because that's basically what they're doing.
That we should have been able to say that he asked for an attorney and wasn't crazy.
Judge, there's two different rights involved here. One is the right to have an attorney present during questioning. The other is the right to have an attorney represent you in a
Well,
court
that's
of law.
true. It is two different things.
So I hope we're not opening the door to
Yeah.
different.
I don't think you are. You can go ahead and play the advisory hearing if you want to. All right. What?
We have a break before we start back up.
Oh, sure. We'll take
Sorry.
another recess. How about till 11? Is that good?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Plenty. I just
Awesome.
have
So
to
we'll
go
be
back.
in recess till